Well, it happened, Alf. It has happened. CGC has a stranglehold on comic book grading, but today we have the announcement that PSA has entered the saloon. Today we're going to talk about four different reasons why this is going to be trouble for CGC. Stick around. What's going on, Collectibles friends? It's been a few weeks. I'm sorry I'm so far behind. The summer has been madness with family stuff, hobby stuff, all sorts of stuff getting in the way of me getting videos up on my second channel here, the Collectibles Dad. But this one had to be made, had to prioritize this thing. Alf has been yelling at me. Let's be honest, Alf has been struggling ever since the show got canceled, but he just stays in his spot, doing his thing. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. We're growing. Even though I'm not doing my part, we are growing, and I will be more consistent here over the next few weeks. This is a big time story. PSA grading. So for those that don't know, PSA is the king of trading card grading. They own sports cards, non-sports cards, and TCG. Of course, there are other players in the market, but PSA is the leader when it comes to trading cards. And over the last few years, they have made huge moves to make sure that second, third, fourth place are not going to be able to really gain a whole lot of ground, if we're being honest. And so PSA is going to offer four things that are really going to hurt on CGC. The first one, PSA for trading cards has what is called a set registry, where collectors compete against one another. They get these items graded. They might have a different card set graded in a 9 or graded in a 10. And you are competing against other collectors through the set registry. And this is huge on the trading card side, especially for vintage card collectors. It is as well on the modern side, but man, vintage card collectors really enjoy the set registry. My assumption is that you'll have a similar type setup on the comic book side. So if you can imagine, you've got that great X-Men run that you've been collecting, but do you have it in the highest grade? Well, now you'll be able to check against other collectors to see where you rank up against other collectors that have PSA graded books. And for a lot of people, that's fun. It's competitive, it's fun. And even though it can be costly, it is a fun part of the hobby for the people that do enjoy the set registries. So this is something that comic book collectors could very much enjoy. Might be irrelevant for comic book collectors. Maybe they're not interested in it, but I think that there's probably going to be some that really enjoy that. PSA has a relationship with eBay. On the trading card side, you can very easily grade those trading cards and they go directly to eBay and put up for auction. So they don't have to be sent home to you. And think about this from the comic book side. I mean, look, for trading cards, they're small. I mean, trading cards are tiny. Comic books are huge. Think about the money saved on shipping from going from CGC back home, out to eBay, whatever. This could be really big for dealers or flippers of comic books. You know, maybe you have modern books that you send in that you're going to go ahead and put on eBay anyway. So you send them in, that you can sit in the PSA vault. My assumption here is that the PSA vault will extend to comic books. Maybe not in the very beginning, but at some point, I'm sure that it will. They will integrate all of this together so that you can very easily grade a book, get it on eBay. Because yes, of course, you're collectors, you might have some books where you're like, hey, I'm holding that book. I want to have it. I want to keep that at home. Perfectly fine. But there's going to be a lot of dealers and there's going to be a lot of flippers of comic books, modern books maybe, that you're buying to sell. Very easily, you can just move it over to eBay. And the third item, expect a better holder. And this is something that, look, we go back 6, 7, 8 months, people I think want to forget, all the CGC folks, they want to forget about that little scandal that happened where someone was very easily able to kind of pop out the little inner well, pop the book out, pop a new book in and all that crap. I am certain that PSA will have their slab set up to where that is not possible or very difficult to do without it being very obvious that someone tampered with the case. So I think that's another thing. We had talked about that, and it's something I still have unease about. CGC needed to really get a better slab going, but I bet, given that PSA's entered the market, that they will be working on a new slab. I'm almost certain of it. I don't have any inside information at all, but that's a must. It's an absolute must, and especially with books that are getting into the 5 figures, the 6 figures, even the 7 figures for these fragile little paper books. This thing needs to be sitting in a better case than what we've got now. PSA will be bringing a great case. I'm certain of that. Even if you don't like the label or whatever, the biggest thing is going to be security on that case, and PSA will have a good case. And last, but certainly not least, this might be the most important item. PSA over the last few years has spent a lot of money expanding their overall infrastructure and capacity. What does that mean? It probably means that they will have the setup to be able to beat CGC in price and turnaround times based on materials, and then also just because PSA is going to want to get their slabs out into the market to go ahead and get in there, be at shows, so people are like, oh, what is that? That's not a CGC. I'm not even going to mention Beckett. I'm not even going to mention CBCS because it's not even worthwhile, really, because it's just kind of slowly fading. PSA is going to want to get their slabs out there. It's going to push CGC to lower their price because PSA will go under them, I believe. That if maybe it'll be $15 comic book grading, whatever, and it'll be a 30-day turnaround, 15-day turnaround, or whatever. They will, just my opinion, I think that they are going to undercut. They're going to make that price very reasonable for people to give them a try. And that's all that they need. All that they need is for people to give them a try. And if they have fast turnaround time, it's good service. PSA's also been upping their tech on their website, their app. It's getting better and better. And so again, this is stuff that CGC does not already have in place. They've announced this now that they're not going to start taking submissions until 2025. So it gives CGC a little bit of a heads up. I'm sure they probably got rumblings of this anyway coming, but it's clear that CGC will need to do better. They will need to do more work if they are going to stay competitive in this space. I mean, no doubt about it. Of all the established grading companies that could have entered the comic book grading space, this is the one that has the potential to really move CGC. As difficult as it is to build brand, that's always tough. You know, you think about, oh man, Fanatics is going to start their own grading company and nobody will probably use it. That's why Fanatics is trying to buy other companies. Grading is so difficult. Part of PSA's foothold and SGC and Beckett, even Beckett holding on for dear life, is because they've got decades in the industry. That is why it is extremely difficult to start a grading company from scratch and gain traction. It takes years. PSA started in 1991. They didn't really start getting traction until the late 90s. And then in the early 2000s, it really started to kind of move up from there. But it took a solid decade for them to get any sort of traction with collectors / speculators on this stuff. So CGC has to be really careful because this is one of those kind of inflection moments where they could very easily turn into the Beckett of trading cards, where BGS Beckett, they were the king, especially of modern cards. Grading modern cards, everybody graded their modern cards with Beckett. Not necessarily all their vintage stuff, BVG, but they graded a lot of their modern cards with Beckett, going back 5 years, 6, 7 years, and it dramatically changed over the last few years, and they have never recovered from it. And now out of the top 4 trading card grading companies, they are at the bottom of the list of grading sports cards, which really was their bread and butter going back to when Jim Beckett ran the Beckett magazine. It's one of the best brand names in the hobby, and it's completely gone downhill. If CGC does not work to get out in front of this, PSA will eat their lunch. No doubt about it. They will start taking huge chunks of market share. No doubt. All right, my friends, let me know in your thoughts. Of course, there's going to be a lot of things that still have to come out. What is the final version of the slab going to look like? When does PSA actually roll it out? I mean, is it January 2025? Is it August of 2025? A year from now? It's a long time. And again, it's not as if PSA is going to overtake CGC in the first 5 minutes. It will take time, but it will be a slow burn, man. And you will see it if CGC does not pick it up. Of course, the good news is that it's great for collectors as a whole. It's great because it's competition in the space. CGC, you're not really having a serious competitor, not really helpful for the end user, for the collector that is grading with them. So this is a good thing. We'll keep you posted on what happens next. Stay healthy, stay awesome, and I will talk to you again later.